The cover story for May is an interview with Minda Duttler, writer, advocate, and the first female wheelchair athlete Ironman triathlon finisher. Also included in this annual mobility-themed issue are topics ranging from equine therapy to public transportation. Sign up to receive this and every issue for free at epmagazine.com.
Oscar Mike Radio is a proud podcast partner of REITs Across America Radio, heard every Thursday at 11 a.m. and Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern. They're also big supporters of the nonprofit I Got Your Six, Two Lives at Once. And with every wreath you sponsor through Oscar Mike Radio, $5 goes back to this great organization dedicated to making a difference in the lives of veterans, law enforcement, firefighters, and first responders battling PTSD. Two Lives at Once pairs these brave men and women together with dogs rescued from kill shelters. In this way, two lives are saved at the same time by saving each other. Donate now. Go to reatsacrossamerica.org/Oscar Mike Radio to help. That's reatsacrossamerica.org/Oscar Mike Radio.
Suicide is preventable, and each of us has a role to play in suicide prevention.
Suicide is complex. There is no single cause.
And it's not always a mental health issue. It could be loss of a job or home, financial or relationship issues, pain, or leaving the military.
Suicide does not discriminate. It affects all ages, races, and genders, veterans or not.
If you know a veteran who is struggling, connect with them. Let them know help is available.
There is quick and easy access to services in times of crisis.
Dial 988, then press 1. Talking about it is okay.
Don't keep it inside. Don't be ashamed. Don't wait. Reach out.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Hello and welcome again to Oscar Mike Radio. My name is Travis. I am your host. Oscar Mike Radio is part of the Hubazoo Network. You can find out more on hubazoo.com. I want to thank my sponsors, Joyce Asek of Asek Real Estate, Army National Guard veteran Mark Holmes of Reapers Detailing and Power Washing, and my supporters, Exceptional Parent Magazine, Black Cat Designs, and Cason Shaving Company. And it's number 400. You know it's because Mistress Carrie is back on to add something to this show. It's been a quick 2 years, and I have also returning guest Bill Moore from Project New Hope out of Worcester, Massachusetts. I want to thank you both right up front for taking time to, help me make this special moment. I didn't think it would happen when I started Oscar Mike Radio. It's here now, and I'm just pleased to have you both here.
Congratulations.
Yes,
Huge
congratulations.
accomplishment.
Yeah. 400, yeah, amazing. Were we on your first one?
You were on number 137. Mistress came on for 84, and then she's been on 100, 200, and 300. Mistress, you're tied with Tom Kilgannon out of the Freedom Alliance in Washington, D.C. for the most appearances, but he wants to come on again, so we'll see. It's something else.
You got to let me lead the pack for a little while.
Absolutely,
No
absolutely.
offense, Tom.
We're on this, and as we've gotten connected, Mistress, you started Cocktails in the War Room every Tuesday night. Bill, I've gotten to come out to Project New Hope. I got to go to the Bravehearts baseball game and see what you do. You've been doing this for 15 years, and this aspect of your show came up, Mistress, where you were working with Bill to advocate for Project New Hope. So we'll get into all that good stuff, but before we do, let's do a little refresher here. Bill, can you tell us what Project New Hope is, kind of how you got started with it, and then we'll move to Mistress, please.
Yeah, about, I'm going to say 16, 17 years ago, I got a letter from the VA stating that I was 100% service connected, unemployable, and then from that, I retired from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. I was a social worker with the Department of Children and Families out of the Worcester office. And I retired at the age of 50, and my wife was horrified with that thought of me being around the house and what other trouble I could probably get into. So about 14 years ago, I started Project New Hope to offer free weekend retreats for vets and their families and our Gold Star and Survivor families. And it just blew up. And I remember speaking with I can't even think of his name here. He used to be the Secretary of the Department of Veteran Services, and he says, Bill Moore comes in here, he's got a Rolodex bigger than mine. And but it was, being a disabled vet here and just seeing the needs of our veterans and the families and what they're going through. We started Project New Hope, and I partnered with when I came back, I met with Tracy Valancourt, now Tracy Racine, and she lost her only child, Brian, in Afghanistan, and she gave me $5,000 from Brian's death gratuity money and said, go get your 501c3, and she jumped on board as a board of a director 14 years ago, and here it is, 14 years, and so we do the free retreats, and we'll do a matter of fact, in 2 weeks we're doing a women veterans retreat up in Westfield, and we just got done doing a couples retreat up in Westfield. We rent out a facility up there, absolutely stunning up there. We really like it. And we didn't know it was Mother's Day weekend. And I was like, oh my God. Yeah, but we had five soldiers come in, veterans and their spouses, and they needed it. And if you get a chance, go onto our website and click into retreats and look at the couples retreat we just did and see the testimonials. We've kind of moved over to this new treatment called brain-based healing. So as a vet, going in to meet with a therapist, I'm not going to be talking about the trauma that I had in the military. It's about reprogramming our brain, and just read some of the testimonials. So we've been doing that with the Michael Katina, called the Katina method, and we do a lot of the brain-based healing. We bring in 5 trauma-based specialists. Only 10 veterans can come to each retreat. Each trauma-based specialist is assigned 2 veterans, and we do a lot of wellness. We do the equine therapy up in Southampton. We do the Reiki and massage and reflexology and art therapy and gut and brain health, and it's really taken off. And we're really pumped to be the first to offer this here in New England, and so we're booked up now into 2025. So we also, when COVID hit, we've got from the retreats, we started doing our food pantry and baby pantry. So my main office here is in Worcester on 70 Main Street. And then I have an office up in Westfield in Hampden Ponds Plaza. And we've been up there about several years in Western Mass. And we have a food pantry. We're doing about 400 vets up in the Westfield area.
Wow, 400.
Yeah, and about 200, 225 down here in Worcester, the first and third Saturday of every month. We have a food pantry here tomorrow. And I put some video up on our Facebook page of the cars lined up going all the way up the street. People are just amazed. And it's all curbside pickup. And then we have the baby pantry. It's I named it after my mom when she passed. Her maiden name was Sullivan, so we named it Sully's Veterans Food Pantry. And we carry diapers and baby wipes and formula and children's clothes and toys and car seats and everything maybe a baby would need and stuff. We also have, so that's really taken off. And then, of course, as we're growing here, we put on an operations manager. We got a case manager now following up with the veterans. And Shelby is a military spouse. And so she's doing an incredible job. She's been with us maybe about a year now. And, of course, we do the backpacks full of school supplies and, the Operation Sheep's Christmas. We did 205 families last year, 360 children. And they're adopted by businesses in the community. Would adopt this family, go shopping for the children's wish list, and get a gift card for the parents to buy for a Christmas meal, and then turkeys for vets. And so we've really blossomed in 14 years. But you got to stay busy. It's great being retired at a young age, but it's probably not good for the mental health or healthy. So, but I enjoy doing it. And my boy keeps saying about, when are you going to transition? You're going to be 67 this year. I said, listen, I'm young. So, but
well, speaking of young, Mistress, you start a podcast during COVID. You start the Cocktails in the War Room family, which is why I'm all decked out in the Mistress Carrie.
It looks good on you. I love the new sweatshirt.
The sweatshirt is absolutely fire, Mistress. It's comfortable in the shoulders. It's like, and I like the fire down the sleeves. Yeah. I am all about it, full ham. And the way we connected was through veterans advocacy. It's not that you were a DJ on a radio station or became into podcasting and now you're on the Pike and other radio stations, but veterans advocacy has been something that's very central to what you do in and outside of the recording booth, for lack of a better term. Where did that come from? Because when you think of radio DJs or media personalities, it's not something that comes to mind right at first.
Well, I came from a very long line of military family members. During COVID, my sister and I actually did some genealogy research, and we knew that it went back far. We just didn't know how far on my mom's side of the family. My dad's side is an immigrant family. So we knew when they got here, but we weren't sure about my mom's side. And we go back, we found a female relative that passed away in Plymouth in 1630. So we're still trying to figure out when they got here, but we were able to find a relative that served under General Washington in Boston. So being someone that was raised in a family of military members and first responders, it was always something that the family's military history, that they were very proud of. My great-grandfather on my mom's side served as a private in the Army in World War I. His son, my grandfather, was a radio operator in the Navy in World War II in Korea. One of my adopted uncles was a LERP in Vietnam. My father-in-law was or is a retired Marine that served in Vietnam. I've got cousins that served in the Navy. My husband is still active duty Marine Corps. So it was always instilled in me that everyone had a part to play. My dad had been drafted to Vietnam, but because he was running the family business and was the only child that was over 18 that was able to supply income for the entire family, they wouldn't let him go. And it was something that my dad, because when he became a firefighter, he worked so closely with so many veterans. He had a lot of guilt. that he didn't serve. And he, was a professional firefighter his whole career. And my mom was a nurse for 50 years and did a lot of her nursing training on Fort Devens, which back then was an active duty Army base that had Green Berets on it. And so it was just always instilled in me that everyone has a part to play. I'm not medically eligible to serve myself, even though the Marines tried to recruit me out of high school, but I had some nerve damage in my leg from a tumor that I was born with. And so the military wouldn't take me. Not saying I would have gone, because I have a slightly rebellious streak in me, as we all know, but it was always really important to me to do my part. And so when I started on the radio before 9/11, I did a lot of work with the National Guard, and we would do events, and they would send me down to the Cape and compete in competitions and put me on the obstacle course, get the purple haired DJ out, trying MREs and all of that kind of stuff. So I had already started working with the military pre 9/11. When 9/11 happened, we were all on the air in the studio, and we were all very aware in that moment that our generation was going to experience wartime, because every generation in some way, shape, or form does. And because the people that were answering that call were listeners of the radio station that I was on and to my show, it became very personal for me really quickly. I started getting letters and care packages from overseas almost immediately. The little hot sauce bottles filled with sand, pictures of guys with, the calendars from the radio station, and Mistress Carrie t-shirts and bumper stickers and all of that kind of stuff, which is what led me to try to go over and get embedded with troops.
Right.
Which I did in 2006. I was the first non-news journalist to get embedded with U.S. troops in Iraq. In 2011, I went back overseas and got embedded again with troops, not just from the United States, but local troops from Massachusetts in Afghanistan. And I promised those guys, at the time I was embedded with the infantry and there weren't women allowed in the infantry at the time, excuse me, that if they had my back there, that I would always have their back at home. And so now, more than ever, the work that I do, while I was always grateful and always wanted to do my part, I feel like now, since I've come home from those trips that were life-changing for me, that this is my way of giving back to the guys that, quite literally, without trying to be sensational in any way, would have literally taken a bullet to protect me. And before I got there, they only knew that I was a DJ on a radio station. Now, so many of those guys are my best friends in the world. So I look at it like my responsibility to do as much as I can with my life to try and make sure that they get everything they need, and also to make sure that there are systems in place for the next generation of veterans, because as we all know, the world at any given moment could cash that check that anyone in the military is signed that says, I'll go anywhere and do anything you ask. And so that has been a passion of mine for my whole career. And it's something I'm incredibly proud of. And when people say to me, oh, well, I thought this would interest you because I know how much work you do. Or, when my career is just as known for my veterans advocacy and my work with the military as it is for the rock stars, that to me is a testament to the fact that I've made the right choices in my career. I'm very proud of the work that I do with the military and our veterans.
Absolutely. Bill, going back to you, you're not able to advocate like you have for so long without relationships and support. And a lot of nonprofits miss that. They want the accolades and the social media engagement and the attaboys, and don't realize you have to develop meaningful relationships to continue your mission. What has been your thought on that, and how have you stayed true to your mission, but also developing and bringing in new people to keep in Mistress's words, the next generation of veterans served and advocated for?
Well, I think my wife's been with me since the beginning, 14 years ago when I started Project New Hope, and she serves on the board of directors. And they call her Saint Donna. I guess that's for living with me. But it's developing those relationships. We got a great relationship with the Mass National Guard. General Rice and General Keefe and all of them. And we're just doing just developing, being a disabled vet is one. When I remember when I got out of service in 1980, I remember going down to the old Donahue building downtown Worcester. It was dingy. You'd walk in on the first floor, and there really wasn't a lot of benefits like are afforded to the veterans, we'll say from 9/11 on. So it was a long road here. And so I didn't want to have my youngest daughter, one of my daughters, served 6 years in the Air Force with the 102nd Intel Wing down Cape Cod. So that's sort of a passion of mine here is we just started the Central Mass Women's Group for women veterans, so they have a voice. And I'm also the commander of the Vernon Hill American Legion post in Worcester. And when I went in there as commander, we only had one female veteran. And so I just finished my second year, and I just got voted in with being initiated in on Monday for another 2 years as commander. And I have 16 women veterans now in the Vernon Hill American Legion post. So it's, I think just being a veteran, it kind of breaks down the barriers. And, where our food pantry is, a lot of veterans, they need the help, but, you'll always hear them say, give it to somebody that needs it, when in fact they need it. And I think a big thing with us when we started is that we would not report back to their command, or we would try to get them mental health services with somebody that took TRICARE because they don't trust going to the VA or to the vet center. But that whole thing has pretty much changed. The VA, they do incredible work. I go to the Worcester VA, and the people, the professionals up there, the nurses, the doctors, they do a great job. And but just developing these relationships. Mrs. Carrie, we go back a long time. And matter of fact, she did a podcast for a recruitment for us up at the Vernon Hill Post. Was it last year or 2 years ago?
My God, the last 4 years are such a blur. I think it was 2 years ago.
I think it was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Which was wonderful and stuff. But I can't do what I'm doing if my family, my daughter is a retreat host for us, and my other daughter served on the board who was in the Air Force. She's off now. She's got the baby. I shouldn't say baby, just turned 8 years old. But it's my family, so they're invested in it, and we all come from like Mistress Carrie. My dad was Navy, my uncle was Army, my younger brother was Air Force, I was Air Force, my daughter was Air Force. It's so it's just you look at the family history. We've always served our country and stuff, and so I just think it's important for me here. It's my way of giving back, and I always do my PSA, and I've been trying to talk to the younger veterans here because it seems like a lot of the veterans from 9/11 on are not joining, like the American Legion, the DAV, the VFW. And that's sad because I look at it, when my father's father was in and he fought for veterans benefits. And then my dad, Korean War Navy veteran, fought for those benefits. And now here I am in fighting for those benefits here. And then we can't get these veterans to join. Well, in Washington, when they want to cut the budget, who do you think they're going to cut? They're going to go after Social Security, and they're going to cut the benefits for veterans here. And
that was floated last year, right? They were floating cutting VA benefits.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And and what's important about it is it's like $40 to join, but we're stronger in numbers. Yeah. And it's that voice, and we need to continue that voice, because when these young soldiers and sailors are my age at 67 and they're saying, hey, what happened to our benefits here? Well, you have nobody to blame but yourself, because you didn't join the VFW, the DAV, the American Legion. So I always do my PSA on that, because I'm just passionate about, because we don't want to lose all the gains we made here. And they hear us in Washington. And but if these guys and women don't join here, those benefits will be gone in 10, 15 years.
Yeah. Speaking of voice, Mistress, I moved to Massachusetts. And I'll tell you honestly, Bill, and Mistress, I first pronounced Worcester Worcester.
Everybody does.
And I was like, you freaking retard. What are you saying? It's Worcester. Anyway, I do all that, and I'm flipping through the radio station because I'm a metalhead, and Yuma was bereft of metal. We had the Mexican radio station that played metal, and I hear this voice, and I'm like, okay, this is different. This is cool. And it was your voice, Mistress. And through all the years, you make a connection through the power of the voice. So we get to podcasting, and you create a podcast, and you're starting to use this podcast to engage with people who don't know about music. And you've had veterans on to talk about different issues and their stories. What is it about a podcast and your podcast that you have found that you can join with Bill and what he's doing to promote what he's doing, to support what he's doing, but also educate a different type of veteran that's not really looking to join the DAV or American Legion, but your podcast can kind of bridge that gap, but also support them at the same time. It's a really interesting time for our craft.
Well, my relationship with Bill goes back a long ways, and it needs to be said that our introduction came through Project New Hope being willing to sponsor a deployment reunion for the guys I was in Afghanistan with.
Okay.
And those guys came home from their deployment. We lost some guys at home. And I believe at last count, it's a dozen that we've lost to suicide out of the same battalion, which is unbelievably tragic and horrific. And I've been to more military funerals than any person should ever have to go to. And after we lost the first couple of guys, a conversation started about how we could try and stop it and re-engage these guys and help the reintegration process above and beyond the yellow ribbons and everything that the actual military does to make that transition home. But what could we do on the civilian side, on the nonprofit side? And so I got introduced to Bill because they were willing to host a reunion at a campground to try and get these guys together to swap stories and fish and sit around a campfire. And so that's how I met Bill. And that was over a decade ago. It was probably within the first year or two of Project New Hope being an entity. And that was a relationship that sustained through my previous radio career, which that station, WAAF, got sold in February of 2020. And then obviously COVID hit. And I, like a lot of people, wanted to continue to do what I do. I just needed to find a different way to do it. And so I built a studio, MCHQ, where I am, launched my video show, Cocktails in the War Room, and then also launched the Mistress Carrie podcast. And I think the difference, and I love both, which is why I do both simultaneously, radio and podcasting. I think radio is a great way to immediately connect with people and to entertain and inform simultaneously and to develop a community. The beauty of podcasting is that it really is convenience and built around the schedule of the listener. Unlike radio, which is you have to tune in at this time to hear this, with podcasting, the biggest difference for me is that I can talk as long as I want and I can say whatever I want and not have to worry about FCC restrictions, which is something as a career radio person is always top of mind. When I put the headphones on, it's like my brain says, okay, there are certain words you can't say, certain phrases you can't use. And so for podcasting, it really is on demand. It's at the discretion of the listener. If they want to listen to the first half and then come back and listen to the second half, if the topic is or isn't interesting to them, they can skip over it or they can share it and make sure that other people know that it exists. And so for me, starting the podcast, it's a rock lifestyle podcast. But I wanted the freedom to be able to put anything under that umbrella that interested me. Because if it's interesting to me, it's interesting to my audience because they're interested in me and I'm interested in this. So it all works together. And so while the lion's share of the content that I do is rock band related, interviewing the actual musicians. I also interview the roadies and the instrument manufacturers, but I also talk a lot to the artists, many of whom, and I don't think there's ever been a study on it, but I'd be really curious. It is staggering to me in the last 4+ years since I launched the podcast, how many rock bands are children of veterans,
Really?
which I never put two and two together. And there are a lot of them. And my untrained, unscientific brain, in having this conversation with these artists, we talk about the dedication and the hard work ethic and all of the things that you have to have a successful career in the military, and how those traits get passed down from parent to child. And so while these children are growing up with a very different type of pursuit, those learned behaviors of hard work ethic, the drive, all of those things they're inheriting from their veteran parents. And so we talk a lot about veterans' upbringing, veterans' issues with the rock stars I talk to. But then I also wanted to have the freedom on the show to be able to talk about the nonprofits and the advocacy, because I've seen the soldiers, the airmen, the sailors, the Marines, now the Guardians, and what a huge role music plays in their lives. I got to go to a USO concert in Baghdad on September 11th in 2006, and I bumped into my friends from Drowning Pool who were on a USO tour, and they were playing in Baghdad in front of like 4,000 soldiers in uniform on the 5th anniversary of 9/11. And they asked me, would you go up and introduce me? I thought for sure the last thing I was going to do was introduce a band on stage in Baghdad on the 5th anniversary of 9/11. And doing that, watching that show, I saw the impact, the escape, the drive, the motivation that the music gave to our troops while they were overseas. And so anytime I interview veterans or anyone that's involved in veterans advocacy, there is always a common thread of music woven through that the artists want to support the philanthropic endeavors. The artists were raised in veterans' families. So many of the bands that I talked to, from Shinedown to Drowning Pool to Three Doors Down to Five Finger Death Punch, Aaron Lewis from Stained, have gone overseas and performed on military bases in war zones for our troops. And so to be able to pick and choose what to talk about, and to be able to do it in a long form way. When you do radio interviews, sometimes it's like, okay, well, you get the artist for 10 minutes and the record company's going, okay, well, make sure you talk about the new song, or you talk about the album, talk about the concert. And so it chips away at the time. Then you got to play the song. Then there's commercials. So the amount of time shrinks to dig into the people that are behind the songs. And the podcast not only gives me the ability to allow the audience to get to know the artist the way I know them personally, but it also gives the artist and I the freedom, the time, and the platform to discuss the things that we're passionate about. And so often the passion that gets discussed is our veterans community and veterans advocacy. So it all kind of fits together, but to be able to do it in a long form way is a lot different than being able to do it on the broadcast side.
What's it done for you, Bill, to have someone like Mistress support you? And it sounds like, from what we've learned, that you supported her and now she's supporting you. What's that relationship like to you at this stage of Project New Hope?
I think it's very important, and I remember we did that for that unit there. Tom Stewart, he was the commander over there. He serves on my board of directors now. And we had Gary Sharon. Mistress Carrie brought Gary Sharon into play, and I think it was his younger brother with them, and sitting around the campfire on the beach there, and just seeing that connection was very, very powerful for me and stuff. Because I've been out of service a long time, and it's but we're still, I'm an old time vet, but seeing these younger vets here and getting together, and like Tom Stewart always said, we had that camaraderie with one another, but then when we return home, we all go our different directions. And I think that's like the piece that is missing there. And it's that connection. And that retreat, we did a couple after that. And I think even that when we did that, Mistress Carrie, that we saved the soldier there because he was kind of off by himself, and we engaged him and, got him the services there. So it's very beneficial because she has the voice, and she can get our message out about some of the things that we're doing, and a lot of other great nonprofits serving our veteran community here. So it's very important. And I think you talked about it briefly before when we started here, is to develop these relationships. And so we're going on, I've been here 14 years here, and and that it's great. And I think it's very important here. It's, we got to get back to this communication with one another. Everything is, the iPhone here, and even with our children, they don't have.
I'm an Android guy, Bill.
Oh, yeah, okay, all right. But they don't have that connection. Everything's an iPad or this or that here, and but no, I think I just I really, when I want to push things out, she's very gracious to help me get that message out. So, Mr. Carrie, thank you for that.
Well, I think we can all agree that if veterans can solve all of the issues that exist in the veteran community, it would have been done already.
Right.
And because the percentage of America that is active in serving is less than 1%. And I believe the statistic about veterans is 3% of the population is veterans. So the other 97% have work to do and have responsibility, because we are benefiting from the freedom to be able to pursue what it is that we do because of our veterans protecting that right for us. And so it's very important for me, having never served, but raised in a family of veterans, and now married to a active duty Marine, that anyone that's not in uniform has to find a way to get involved and to use whatever it is that they do. I started a Facebook group called Mistress Carrie Veterans Rock on Facebook. And it was for the sole purpose of galvanizing veterans so they could talk to each other, to give people a platform to specifically share veterans organizations, to be able to go and ask questions, but also for civilians to be welcomed into a community where they could learn how they could help, how they could ask questions. For example, a civilian member of the group said, I have an old tattered flag and I don't know what to do with it, and just posted up in this Veterans Rock group. And all these veterans, to your point, Bill, about the Legions and the VFWs, told this person, this is what you do with your flag and we'll take care of it for you respectfully. And then there have been veterans that have gone on there and said, hey, has anybody had any luck filling out this form for these benefits? Or I'm a veteran and I just started a new business and I'm trying to get the word out. Can you guys help? Or I volunteer for a veterans nonprofit. We're having a fundraiser. Is anybody interested in going or donating? And so this group is trying to bridge the gap. When people see me, they don't necessarily assume by what I look like that I'm involved with the military as closely as I am, because I don't blend.
Yeah.
And so I describe the work that I do as kind of being a bridge or a translator, that I'm closely connected to the military and the veterans community, but I'm not a veteran myself. I'm not a member of the military myself. So I understand where civilian confusion may come from. If someone was raised in a family that didn't have anyone in the military and they don't understand why, I think a lot of civilians think that you serve, you're a veteran, and everything you need, the government is going to take care of you. I think there are a lot of Americans that pay their taxes and think, I'm paying this much out of my paycheck. Of course our veterans are getting taken care of. And they're not even aware of the struggles that the veterans have to fight for benefits, to qualify for benefits, to the paperwork required. And they just don't know. And so I feel like my responsibility, you know, you guys are veterans. You understand how to navigate the system, but you also don't understand what it's like to be, for lack of a better word, an uneducated civilian when it comes to navigating the military, the VA, and just the process of being a veteran. And so I think for the other 97% of us, it's about educating ourselves, learning what we can do, advocating for those, even if they're not a member of our own family or our own social circle. And I think that is kind of the puzzle piece that I can play, is to try and bridge civilians together that want to support our veterans and our military and don't know how.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's my role in this. I know a little bit, but I don't know it all. It's like I tell people I've peeked behind the curtain at the great and powerful Oz. So I know this much to be dangerous, but I'm very quick to make sure that I remind people I have never served. I am not a veteran. I do not put myself in that category, but I'm very strong in my belief that all of us have a way that we can assist our veterans in what we do. Find a way to help doing what you're best at.
You know, that thread you were talking about, I want to give a shout out to Suzette from Indian Ranch, because I meet a lot of these musicians that come down to Indian Ranch, and they come up to our booth. They allow us to set up a booth there to get information out about the services that we provide. And we're there for every concert for the last couple of years. So I want to give a shout out to them. But having these veterans or children of musicians come up and say, my dad served in the Marines and thank you for what you're doing, or giving us a shout out on stage. And so you hit that right on the head there. And for a small nonprofit like us, you know, that's big for us. But, and then of course we always recognize, I'm always looking to recognize the Vietnam veterans. I got the little 50-year anniversary pins, and I got the citation from the presidents, and I go up and shake their hand and present that. And Mistress Carrie was right as well there. You know, we weren't getting funding from an organization, we'll say with the United Way here in Worcester, and they thought that because I was a veterans nonprofit, that we were getting all this funding from the Department of you know, the VA and everywhere else. I says, I'm just like any other nonprofit here trying to survive here. And you know, things have turned for the positive there. But you know, I think a lot of times they don't see us. They don't see us veterans, and they don't see that we have spouses and we have children too, and the money's going to the same organizations, but the VA is not really, the veterans nonprofits are not even on that radar. And it's hard, but you know, we've been plugging along here, but it's all that public. We have a group, Liberty Mutual, that is in our food pantry today, volunteering, putting together the food orders for the veterans coming in tomorrow. I think we got 120 veterans coming in tomorrow morning. So you hit that right on the head. So that's all I just wanted to say. I wanted to give a shout out to them because, you know, they don't have to let me in there. And
that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They're doing what they can do to help.
Absolutely.
And that's all we want everybody to do, is just find a way, doing what you're good at, to help.
And how I pay them back there is I mention them and say, we got to work together here. So they're supporting me and helping my veterans. So I got to give a shout out to them. And another a friend that does a lot is Rod Haddad from Napoli's in Shrewsbury. And, he provides food for, I had a big banquet, or we had the 25th Marines, they were deploying. And I says, Rod, we're going to cater this event here. And he said, what do you want? And I wrote down everything. And I says, what's this going to cost? He says, don't worry about it. He says, I'll talk to you later here. And, he never sends me an invoice. And the food that we provided up there. So I got to give Rod Haddad from Napoli's a shout, because, he didn't serve, but this is their way of giving back. And we can't do what we're doing if I don't have the volunteers. So if anybody in Central Mass or my office up in Western Mass, in Westfield, Hampton Ponds Plaza, they want to volunteer for Project New Hope, we'd love to bring you in. And we have a lot of disabled adults that come in from the group homes that they're in there, and they come and they fill the bags up of snacks and stuff, to get them out in the community. And we welcome that. They're part of our community. We get donations And, I take care of my veterans first and my active duty service members, but we want to be a good community partner. So we put our extra stuff back out into the community. So, it's one hand helping the other here. And, you can't do what we're doing if we're not collaborating with one another.
Well, speaking of collaboration, speaking of, what you're doing now, what's coming up for you both in terms of supporting each other or veterans advocacy for, the podcast Mistress and for what you do, Bill, with Project New Hope?
I'll let Mistress go first.
Okay.
Well, this year I have a lot of lofty goals for myself, my company, and expanding, working on bringing in some more radio stations. I work for a lot of different radio stations around the country. I'm even on AFN overseas, which I was so excited when that happened. It was always a career goal of mine. So to be able to expand and work with different stations around the country, to get to widen my platform, welcome more people into the Mistress Carrie universe has been a goal. But one of the other things, coming out of the sale of WAAF, navigating COVID, the growth pains of starting my own company, it's been 4 years now. And like the stabilization has started to happen, right? Where there's, anybody that starts a new business, those growing pains and trying to figure out, how to get from day to day. And so now it's a matter of trying to get involved with more events and really trying to expand. And I was hoping I was going to have all the details to talk about it today. I don't have all the details, but I will tell you on your show first. I had the opportunity to partner with a friend of mine that owns an ice cream company, and he makes ready meals and ice cream cakes. And he also makes ice cream for adults that has alcohol in it. And he is an old friend of mine that used to work in radio with me. He calls himself the Ice Cream Alchemist, and he's in Topsfield, Connecticut. And, he's in Thompson, Connecticut, excuse me. And he approached me and said, I want to do something and I want to partner with you, but it has to be 100% nonprofit. I'm not doing this to make money. I don't want you to make money on it either, but I want to partner on an idea. And so we have been developing, I am not on the chemistry side of it, I am on the taste testing side of it, a Mistress Carrie ice cream.
Yes.
And it is the color of my hair.
Check.
The recipe coming from the Ice Cream Alchemist. I don't have the entire recipe memorized, but obviously it has blueberries and blackberries and raspberries in it. But it also contains things like tequila and limoncello. And the goal of it is to create this pint of ice cream that will be available for purchase on site at his business, where all of the money raised from the purchase of this pint would go to a charity of my choosing. As long as all of the money went to charity. Like I said, the Ice Cream Alchemist is not going to make any money, and neither am I. And so he said it could be any organization that I chose, but they had to be local. It had to be a local nonprofit that was doing work in the community. And so I reached out to Bill and said, would you be interested in being the beneficiary of this ice cream? And he just texted me, he messaged me back, and he's like, yes, of course. When are we doing this? And so we have been waiting for the final recipe. I've been taste testing. It's a tough job, but somebody has to do it.
Well, I mean, you're the right person.
And then obviously working out all of the logos and the packaging for it. There's a lot of behind the scenes work to roll out something like this. Obviously, we're coming into the summer season in New England, so seasonal workers and making sure that we've got enough of the ice cream ready to go. And then the goal was to have a big launch party on location to announce the ice cream, which I'm kind of letting it slip here, but it's fine. And to do a big launch, and Bill and his team are going to come down. I'm going to go down and set up, and we're going to encourage people to come down and support Project New Hope and to get this new Mistress Carrie ice cream. And so it's a way that, again, a business wanting to just do something and use what they have, their resources, to be able to just help and get involved. And so it's this amazing partnership, and it's going to happen this summer. We're working out the details. We're going to figure out when we're going to do it. And we're going to have this big ice cream launch event this summer. And I will tell you this, it's delicious.
Mm.
Well, I will have to take a ride or drive down there and verify that. So that's just the best part about doing Oscar Mike Radio and hearing stuff like that, where it's like you said, a civilian never served before gets with another civilian who hasn't served but knows where the need is, and something good happens out of there. That's the best part about this whole thing.
And we're smart enough to know what we don't know, right?
Yeah.
So I've had so many people ask me, well, why don't you start your own foundation? Carrie, why don't you just have your own nonprofit? And my answer is always, I'm not going to do a better job advocating for veterans than Bill Moore and Project New Hope. There are so many amazing veterans organizations that have chosen a lane to supply education, medical treatment, food pantries, retreats, whatever it is. I'm not going to do a better job than Bill. So why would I try? We're all better off if I do what I do best to assist Bill in what he does best. He knows this better than I do. So why would I try to do it myself when I can help Bill do what he does, because he's the best at it?
Mr. Moore, what do you got going on for the rest of this year? That's I don't know if you can top
It's hard
that.
to follow her, it's what I got going on June 6th through the 10th, I have a women veterans retreat up in Westfield. We have 10 women veterans coming in, and we're doing this new treatment called brain-based healing. So instead of going in and talking about my PTS and the trauma that I suffered, it's to reprogram our brain. And I would just tell your listeners just to go to our website, projectnewhopema.org, and click into the retreat button and read the testimonials and see the pictures of these retreats here. Incredible healing going on. And the other aspect is the wellness, the equine and the massage and the Reiki and the yoga and everything else there. So that's going to be June 6th through the 10th. That is filled to capacity, and we have a waiting list for that women veteran retreat. We're doing a men's healing retreat, the same thing, the brain-based healing, November 7th through the 11th. And I think we can take 6 more people registering. And again, I would direct them to the website and read the testimonials from the one we did last November. It's unbelievable. And then the other 2 things I got going on, people tell us we're crazy here, but we're doing our 10th annual motorcycle run on August 17th. And we're also doing, I think it's our 7th annual Birdies for Vets on the same day. So we have the motorcycle run kicking off at in the morning, and I go over to Wagner Motorsports in Worcester, and I send them off, and then I get in my car and I zip over to Heritage Golf Course in Charlton, and I speak to all the golfers over there and get them off on their golf carts, and then I zip back to the Vernon Hill American Legion post to welcome the riders back. And so I'm back and forth between the golf fundraiser and the thing, but it's been going very, very good. So those are our 2 annual fundraisers we have. The golf tournament, we're still looking for 6 foursomes to sign up, and then our field will be filled on August 17th. And all that information is on our website. They can register online. And Travis, I thank you for allowing me to get to know about these retreats and the dates and the food pantry and it's Carrie, you brought up the thing here about a lot of these men and women are struggling here, and they feel, and I've heard it numerous times, that my family's better off without me, and they're not. And I worked for the state for over 25 years. I was a DVOP, Disabled Veterans Employment Rep. This is my passion here. And we do have the inroads, and we do have the contacts to cut through the red tape. And we have a national service officer that comes to Project New Hope each month, and he does claims for our veterans, our military, and the widows of our veterans here. And this is all free. We don't charge anything. I've been doing this for 14 years. I'm a volunteer CEO, president of Project New Hope. I don't draw a salary. My wife doesn't draw a salary. My board members, I mean, I got Marines, Army, Air Force here, and then our spouses. And we couldn't do, and Carrie couldn't do what she does, if we didn't have our spouses in the background and doing us. Her husband is serving active duty. I'm a veteran. I would have been lost without my wife for 40 years here and stuff. So I got to give a shout out to all the spouses out there as well. Thank you for what you do. And matter of fact, I had my case manager just walking in here, Shelby. I'll have her just come around and just say hello. And her husband's active duty Army in the Mass National Guard. Come over, Shelby, say hello.
Hi, Shelby.
Shelby, what a pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you guys.
I always throw her under the bus.
He sure does.
And I also want to make sure that I thank, all the radio stations and all the bands and everyone that helps to give me the platform, because I can't do what I do without the people that are giving me the platform to be able to talk about it. The Pike here in Worcester, has never said, don't talk about that, or don't. They're always like, what are you doing? How can we help? The staff of people that we have around us, and then also, staff of people at home, my husband, my family. Anytime that I put together some kind of a charity event, or, I need help getting the word out, or I need volunteers, my family is always there to be like, sure, we'll come and stuff envelopes, or we'll come and pack care packages or whatever. And, we ask a lot of the people around us, our corporate sponsors, our families, our friends. And Bill, I know that I can speak for you when I say this. Very few people say no to us.
Right.
And that's a great thing.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's, I always, I'm always asking this stuff, but I don't like to go back to the same people. And, like Rod, my friend Rod from Naples, and, he says, I just wanted to pay him back, and like, hey, I wanted to thank you for doing it. And how do I do that? I give him a shout out here and I say, hey, Naples in Shrewsbury here. That's how I can help him out, because he won't take anything from me. He says, if I can't afford to do it, I wouldn't do it. But I believe in your mission and what you're doing here. And so that's why we do. And I've advertised with my buddy, Mr. Ruggieri, down there at the radio station with Mistress Carrie. And he's a great guy from Grafton Hill. And but no, it's we can't do what we're doing, and it's the community. I'm glad to see the community starting to wrap their arms around us, because we can help them out as well. It's a tough time we're doing here. This woke thing they talk about, and I always say, just turn off the TV and just go back to your community, because there's a lot of good things happening in our community, and just turn off that TV and just get involved in your community.
Sure,
and stuff.
sure. Well, for people watching, this show, I want you to understand that, because I get asked this question all the time, Bill and Mistress, what can I do? I'm a civilian. You've just heard how you can advocate with what you have, and you can start right where you are. So I want to thank you both for coming on and talking with me. And, I always learn a lot from you both. You all have had a very profound impact on my life. I will have the links to Project New Hope and Mistress Carrie's work in the Oscar Mike Radio show post. If you're a podcast fan, listen to her show. If you're in the Worcester area, go by and check out what Project New Hope is doing. And just to close this out, I just want to thank you all for the effect you've had on my life. I remember, bringing my rig to your office, Bill, in Worcester, and you were totally cool. And we talked for a good hour. We had a good time. And Mistress, you've been there, almost from day one. And I really appreciate all your mentorship and guidance over time. We're going to close out this show now. Any closing thoughts before we shut this down, ladies and gentlemen?
Well, I think, first of all, congratulations on episode 400. I think anybody that does any kind of work behind a microphone understands that the milestone of 400 of anything is spectacular. And you're the perfect example of someone that has created a new life and found this amazing platform and purpose, utilizing what you're great at, following your service and educating people that have never served, galvanizing those that have, and giving a platform to people that are working towards the goal we all have, which is to make sure that our military and our veterans community is protected and thriving for the next generation is exactly what we need. And, I don't think you could have ever imagined being the seasoned host that you are all those years ago. And now look at you 400 episodes later. I have a lot of work to do to catch up with you. I'm only in the couple hundreds episodes. But 400 episodes, it's huge. So congratulations. You should be really proud.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations on number 400 and having us back here. And I just let your viewers know, Memorial Day is coming up here. So let's honor and remember our fallen warriors from all eras, and go put a flag on your loved one's grave. I do it every year, and I do my dad and my uncles and family friends here, and go out to the different cemeteries. So that's what's important to me. So I just want to thank you again, Travis. Mistress Carrie, thank you for doing what you do, and I look forward to going down to Connecticut and launching that ice cream.
Wait till you taste the ice cream, Bill. It's delicious.
All right. I hope there's some Grey Goose in there or whatever, but
I just want to say one thing that Bill just brought it up. One of the things that I talk to a lot of people about is the understanding of the difference between Veterans Day, Armed Forces Day, and Memorial Day. And there are people that over the long Memorial Day weekend will thank veterans for their service or say Happy Memorial Day, meaning well and not understanding. And so for people that are in the civilian population, not understanding the power and the sadness that can come with Memorial Day weekend commemorates the sacrifice that was made by our fallen military. For a lot of veterans, it is not a happy day, not a day to take advantage of retail sales and barbecues, but a day that they are in solemn remembrance of a brother or sister in arms. Armed Forces Day celebrates those that are actively in uniform, and Veterans Day in November is the day that you thank people for their service. But Memorial Day is for commemorating that sacrifice and remembering the families that have lost their loved ones, remembering the battle buddies that are missing that piece. And so just for civilians that are listening that may not understand the difference, there are distinct differences in those days. And so saying Happy Memorial Day or thank you for your service over Memorial Day weekend may not be appropriate. And I think a lot of people don't know that. So I just want to make sure that we said that.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, this show will drop the first week in June, but this message is appropriate year long. And, this show's called Oscar Mike Radio. You have Bill Moore and Mistress Carrie, who are truly Oscar Mike. That's military speak for on the move or on mission. I want to thank you both again for coming on and sharing with me and sharing in this moment. And as we say in Oscar Mike Radio, we're mission flight. Thank you both.
Thank you, Travis. I can't wait for 500.
We're going to party. It's going to be a party for sure.
So, party first next month.
Yes, sir.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Remember on and teach is our mission. We care about it and we do it every day. But I think there are things that just hit you and give you a reason to go on. The theme for our 2024 for Reach Across America is Live with Purpose. It just seemed to fit in with the vows of the REAP, the 10 attributes that we feel represent our United States military. And I thought, what a great opportunity to put those two things together and show our kids through how we act some of the things that can make their lives better, their communities better, and by doing that, the country better. For me, Live with Purpose, I think, it's a mindset. Set some guidelines and then go out and purposefully make life different, make a change. It's an opportunity to set an example.
Thank you for listening and watching Oscar Mike Radio, where our active duty service members and veterans are in action and the mission is in flight. Oscar Mike Radio is an oversized load co-Sinister One production. If you are a veteran or know a veteran who needs help, please dial 988 and press 1 for the Veterans Crisis Line.